I want to talk about the new format, basically, because I do believe that Justice Hunters is the most important and impactful set of the year that we know of so far. You know, like maybe there's another set coming out at a later time that is going to be insane that we don't know about. But from the stuff that we know so far, this set, Justice Hunters, is going to be a major shakeup to the format, even more than Crossover Breakers has been last year. And we all know how impactful Crossover Breakers was in 2024, or even until now. And I think this set is arguably better than Crossover Breakers, because instead of 2 good archetypes in Crossover Breakers with Malice and Ryziel, we have 3 good archetypes in this set. And I think it's a good day because it is Justice Hunters release day. It's a good day to talk about those 3 new archetypes separately. The first archetype I want to talk about is K9, because K9 is likely to be a very, very impactful archetype even beyond its own deck, you know, because for the most part, Dracotail and Yummy are individual decks that are pretty strong, but K9 is different because it is very strong as an engine. So we're gonna go through this basically from the beginning and like walk through the K9 cards, even for the people that are not familiar with them yet, because I want this to be as insightful as possible for people that even might lack the context of this stuff because they haven't looked into the set yet, because there's a lot of people that only look into the cards once the set is actually out. And so we're gonna talk about K9 first. Now, K9 is a deck that is very heavily rank 5 centric. It is a very rank 5 centric deck. It is playable as a pure deck. However, it usually is being played as an engine in other decks because it just doesn't have the card quality for a 40 card pure K9 deck. Basically, it's lacking a little bit on that department, but we're talking about this first by going over the main deck monsters and what they facilitate. So arguably the best K9 main deck monster is K9 Izuna, which is obviously the most expensive card in Justice Hunters besides any of the premium rarity stuff. If your opponent has 2 or more cards in their hand, you can normal summon this card without tributing. This is a sentence that you're going to find on multiple K9 cards. Some of the other ones have this too, because obviously everything is level 5. So they have a way to be normal summoned without a tribute. This is something to keep in mind sometimes when you play against the deck. If you have the option, let's say you have a spell card in your hand and you're thinking about, should I set this as a bluff or whatever? If this brings you down to 1 card in hand at the end of your turn, it can be an advantage just in case your opponent is playing some K9 cards. So you can go down to 1 card in hand, and that's going to make it harder for your opponent to normal summon the K9s. You can only use each of the following effects of Izuna once per turn. During the main phase, if your opponent has activated a monster effect in the hand or graveyard this turn, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can send the K9 card from your deck to the graveyard, except Izuna. Now, this is one of the reasons why I believe the K9 cards are such a good engine, is because K9 Izuna is basically a hand trap. And we're going to see how this effect, because this effect in itself does not really interrupt the opponent, but we're going to see in a second how you can interrupt the opponent on the opponent's turn with Izuna. So any deck that activates effects in hand or graveyard is going to play into some of the K9 bonus effects, because this is not the only card that has something to do with hand or graveyard effects. Basically, pretty simple. You can normal summon this without a tribute in certain situations, and you can special it from your hand if your opponent has activated a monster effect in hand or grave. Most importantly, you don't have to respond to your opponent's effect with this. This is not like a trigger. This is just something that if it's happened this turn, you can do it. This can be used both defensively when your opponent is going first, but it can also be used offensively to play through something like a Nibiru, Ash Blossom, Effect Veiler, or whatever. You know, like if your opponent hand traps you with some of these cards, you can use these to extend. And I think the next most important one is K9 Lupus, which is, funnily enough, this is the best ultra rare in Justice Hunters. This is the worst one to pull, because this one is just a one-of in most of the decks, but this is the one you send for Izuna most of the time. An Xyz monster that has this card as material can't be targeted. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. During the main phase, if your opponent has activated a monster effect in hand or grave this turn, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand, but banish it when it leaves the field. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can Xyz summon using this card you control. So this is how you turn Izuna into a disruption, is your opponent has activated a card effect in hand or grave, a monster effect most importantly, and you will special summon Izuna from your hand. Then you will send a Lupus from your deck to the graveyard, and you will be able to bring it back from the grave immediately, basically, because it's the same requirement that Izuna has, right? And so you're going to be able to bring the Lupus back, and then you're going to be able to overlay with these two because you have 2 level 5s on the board, and that level 5 is also now untargetable. So we're going to talk about some of the rank 5 options you have later, but basically this gives you the opportunity to make a rank 5 Xyz on your opponent's turn, which can interrupt your opponent but also set up your board at the same time. Also, most importantly, the Lupus, once you overlay with it, will go back into the graveyard later on. So on future turns, if your opponent keeps activating monster effects in hand or grave, you can keep bringing back the Lupus to potentially quick Xyz on future turns for your opponent again. So this is a really powerful engine even outside of the K9 deck, which is why I think this is so relevant. I'm going to cover the main deck monsters first. The next important one is K9 Jockle. Also, Noroi over here is not out yet in Justice Hunters. This is a card from Doom of Dimension, so we're going to skip over that for now. If your opponent has 2 or more cards in hand, you can normal summon it without tributing. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. You can reveal this card and 1 other level 5 in your hand. Special summon both, but they cannot be used as material for the Xyz summon of a light monster. During your main phase, you can add a non-Aqua K9 from your deck to your hand. So this is one of the reasons why this deck has such great synergy with other decks, because it lets you get level 5 monsters out of your hand. Because in a lot of strategies, level 5 monsters are usually, they can be bricky, right? Like, let's think K9 Crystron, for example, which is one very popular version of the deck in the OCG. You can just summon your Solfefnirs or Solfadors out of your hand. In K9 Vanquish Soul, you know, something like a Jiaolong, which normally is only good if you already have Vanquish Soul combos and you can already do your Vanquish Soul stuff. You can summon it out of your hand with Jockle, and it's very easy to get it onto the field. So this thing is really good because it lets you get 2 level 5s out of your field immediately, which sets up a rank 5 play, but you're not forced to do any rank 5 stuff. This does not lock you into rank 5. You can special a Jiaolong and make rock with it if you want to. And then also it goes +1 while doing so, right? Like you special this and another level 5, and then this adds a non-Aqua K9 from your deck to your hand, which is all the other K9s. It just basically means you can't add itself. This one searches you an Azuna, for example, very easily. So that's pretty cool. So Jockle, really good card. And then the last one is K9 Lantern, which is, some decks play it, some decks don't. This is basically usually a one-off because this thing is, it has the same normal summon requirement. And then if this card's in your hand, you can target a level 5 non-Pyro K9 in your grave, special summon both it and this card, but they cannot be used for the Xyz summon of a light Pyro monster. During your main phase, you can add a K9 spell trap from your deck to your hand. It is a very good card because it basically goes +2 because it summons another K9 from your grave, so it gives you 2 bodies, and then it still adds a K9 spell trap from your deck. So this is really good card advantage, but it's usually just a one-off because you can't do this from the start. You need another K9 for this to be good in the graveyard, which is why most decks opt to play this at 1. I've even seen some decks opt to not play it at all because it can be a pretty mediocre draw on its own. But it is a pretty good card because it lets you get just 2 cards for free, basically, once you are already set up a little bit. So it's a really good extender. In terms of the spell traps for the deck, we've got a case for K9, which is one of the best ones. You still only play 1 because you can search it a lot of the times, but the more heavy K9 builds might play 3 of this card. When this card's activated, you can add a K9 monster from your deck to your hand. Plain simple, very good. K9 monsters you control gain 900 attack during any turn in which the opponent has activated a monster effect in hand or grave. 900 is a sizable boost, which is pretty good. If this card in the spell trap zone is destroyed by a card effect, you can set a K9 quick play spell from your deck or grave. You can only use this effect once per turn. You can only activate 1 case of K9 per turn. Pretty simple. It's a searcher with some upside. I'm pretty sure in some combos you can use the effect to destroy itself, like because it doesn't have to be destroyed by your opponent, because they do actually play a K9 quick play spell, which is K9 Forced Release, which says during your main phase, target a K9 Xyz you control, special from your extra deck, a K9 Xyz with a different name. By using that monster you control, this is treated as an Xyz material, transfer the materials, then you can destroy a card your opponent controls, and then at the end of the battle phase, if your K9 monster battled, you can set this card from your grave. So this is basically a rank up spell for K9, which is pretty good. You rank up into another K9. We're going to read over the K9 Xyz in a second, and then you also get to pop another card, which is really strong. There's another K9 rank up spell, but that one is typically not played in the hybrid version simply because this one is better. This one is target a K9 or rank 5 you control, special from your extra deck, a K9 with a different name. The difference here is that this one can also rank up every rank 5 Xyz monster. This one has to rank up a K9, but usually the upside of being able to destroy a card is too high for people to forego Like don't want to play both, and this one just usually is better. Oh, this is also main phase only. This one is main phase only, this one is not, which is also a slight. So this one is better, but it is like it just doesn't get you to pop, right? And then also it has the same reset at the end of the battle phase. If you're K9 battle, you can set this card from your grave. So they're both decent cards. I'm gonna be honest with you. They're both good, but just being able to pop a card is worth so much that most people decide to play this one over this one. And most people I've seen, they don't play both. The trap card, I'm gonna skip over the trap card because it does not see play at all, right? No one is playing the trap card. Now the Exceeds. K9 Ripper is by far the best Exceed monster you're gonna play in this deck. 2 level 5 monsters. You can detach a material from this card to add any K9 card from your deck to your hand, and if your opponent has activated a monster effect this turn, you even get the K9 quick play spell for free from deck or graveyard. So sometimes you don't even have to worry about destroying your own case for K9. If your opponent has activated a monster effect this turn, you'll get it for free by going for Ripper. When your opponent activates a monster effect in hand or grave, you can detach a material from this card to negate that effect. So this is one of the options you can go into on your opponent's first turn if you manage to get a rank 5 out there, because it's going to be a non-target monster that can negate a monster effect in hand or grave. Most of the time this is a solid option, but like it's more importantly, it's really powerful when you make it on your first turn, right? You make this on your first turn, this can get you 1 or 2 cards from your deck for free. And then later on, it is also a negate for effects in hand or graveyard, which is most importantly something that can negate further hand traps like Nibiru or something. So this card going first is a powerhouse. This is one of the strongest cards in K9, and why it's so good to splash it in other decks is because it's just a way to make combos like Nibiru safe and everything, which is really, really powerful. K9 Ripper is really, really, really strong. K9 Hound is another one, but this is also very rarely played. 2 level 5 monsters can't be destroyed by battle or your opponent's card effects to turn it's special summoned. Each time your opponent activates a monster effect, this card gains 500 attack. Once per turn during the standby phase, detach a material, target a card on the field, banish it. It's not bad, but it just happens to not be good enough to be included in most of the K9 builds. It's worth noting, if you make this with Lupus, it is untargetable, can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, but only during the turn it's special summoned. So like, it can be quite an annoying card to out, and I think some of the builds of the deck that have more extra deck space might choose to include it. But for example, K9 Vanquish Soul does not include this card because it just doesn't have room in the extra deck, because there's so many other good rank 5s all of a sudden that you can make with this deck. K9 X Werewolf is the one that you rank up into most of the time with your forced release. Most of the time you're going to be ranking up a Ripper into a Werewolf, which is, well, this card has material. It can attack a number of times each battle phase up to the number of materials. When your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can detach a material from this card, then activate this effect depending on whose turn it is. If it's your turn, banish a card from your opponent's field and graveyard. If it's your opponent's turn, look at your opponent's hand, banish a card from it face up until the end phase. This is very, very powerful. Basically, what you are getting from just the K9 cards in this instance is you're getting a Ripper, which can negate a card effect in hand or graveyard, and then you can rank up using the quick play spell into the Werewolf, which pops a card on the field, and then when your opponent activates another card on their turn, you can look at their hand and banish another card. Really, really strong forms of interruption that you're getting from the K9. It's basically, and that's the reason why, another reason why it's being used as an engine or as a hybrid is because on its own, this might not seem good enough to win like most games, right? Like a pop, a hand trap negate, and a banish from hand with hand information. I think that alone is pretty good, but not strong enough to win you games. But if you add this on top of any other engine, if you add this on top of any Vanquish Soul board, any Crystron board, or any other level 5 focused strategy, honestly, it's going to turn every combo from strong into unbreakable, right? Like it's going to turn your Vanquish Soul board from very strong into unbeatable. It turns your Crystron combo from very strong to unbeatable. And I think that's the main thing with K9. And in some ways, I actually don't like this about this deck, right? I think as a pure deck, this would be fine. I think it'll make some decks from very strong into unbeatable when they go first, is this deck, right? And we see this in the OCG at the moment. K9 Vanquish Soul is by far the best deck over there at the moment. It has like 26% in the most recent metagame breakdown. And this is just an example list here where It's basically the standard Vanquish Soul package that people play in the TCG already. You know, you've got your 1 Caesar, your Borgers, your 3 Holy Sue, of course 3 Jiaolong now because it's level 5. You got your Raisins, your Mad Loves, all the standard stuff. The difference is just your non-engine now, which at the moment people are doing some hand traps in the TCG. You just do Canines because Canines have great synergy with Jiaolong. It just happens to be the right attributes for Vanquish Soul as well, right? Like they got a ton of darks and some earth, which earth is not that important, but earth is still fine in Vanquish Soul, right? It's just a very slim engine that you play. You play 3 Izuna, 3 Jockle, 1 Lantern, 1 Lupus, 1 of each of the spells, and there you go, right? And that is the best deck in the OCG at the moment. The rank 5 options you see in the extra deck here, they actually do play the Hound here. I'm surprised by that. I see a lot of lists without the Hound, but you play Ripper, you play Hound, you play Valon from the recent set, which is a quick effect Book of Moon, which can be a very strong interruption on the opponent's turn. So those are basically your turn 0 options when you're going second and you have Izuna. You usually make Ripper or you make Valon, depending on the deck you're playing against, right? Either hand or graveyard negate or book is what you go into with an Izuna, which as a hand trap, I think is fine. It's not bad, but it is fine. On your turn, there's other rank 5 options, of course. I think most of the time you're going to go for Ripper on your own turn, but you're going to also want to go for stuff like the Nash Knight package, which is going to be very prominent or is very prominent in the OCG at the moment. There's different options you can do. Some people are opting to play the Masquerade package. Some people are opting to play the Honor Arc package. You're going to see some Nash Knight shenanigans because this deck is really good at pumping out rank 5s immediately. Also, a card that you don't see in this deck, but you will see in the TCG is Paradise Smasher. I don't know how often you're going to want to go for Paradise Smasher because it is risky, and I think it's usually something you will only want to do if you get like hand trapped heavily, but Paradise Smasher is an option for this deck. They did play it in the OCG when it was legal. It is now banned over there. I think it is also going to be banned for us, but it's not banned yet. I tried to like throw together a TCG version of this deck potentially. This is how you could build it. I threw in Bestials. I'm not sure how good the Bestials are going to be with the Canine package being everywhere. Maybe the Bestials could be more Charmies. Of course, we don't have Maxi in the TCG, so this is how you can expect to see this deck being played in the beginning. You're always going to see 3 Holy Sue, 3 Raisin, 3 Madlove, 1 Caesar. You're always going to see 3 Jiaolongs. I doubt people are going to play 3 Heavy Borgers. It's probably going to be 1 or 2. And I think Charmies are still going to be good in the TCG. Some people also play Durandal in this deck because you can play... I think this is more relevant in the OCG, but I saw some people play Artifact Durandal in this deck. I think if your hand, let's say your hand is very bad, you can theoretically make Durandal on your opponent's first turn and try to draw into like better hand traps with it, or try to draw into a Holy Sue with the Durandal, which can be okay. You basically turn a normal spell trap into a you can also negate normal spells with it, but then that doesn't really work on turn 0. Or you can pair it with Droll, of course. This is something where you could see, I think this is a relatively simple list to start with in the TCG, where you just have like the standard Vanquish Soul package, Ash Blossom, K9 package, and some Charmies and maybe some Bestials. This is like, I think this is a realistic way to play the deck in TCG. This is how I feel about K9, is like, I feel K9 as its own deck is not that strong. As of now, it gets more support in the future in Doom of Dimension. We've already seen some new cards for Doom of Dimension. The deck is going to be good, but for now, it's going to be a hybrid deck for the most part. It is an engine that you're going to see in other decks. The most prevalent ones are going to be Vanquish Soul and Crystron, and in those decks, it's going to put those decks over the top. I think with this engine, I think both of those decks are going to be very meta relevant. This is what you're going to expect. You're going to expect this deck to have basically TLDR. It adds a strong hand trap to these decks if you play the K9 engine, and it makes these decks stronger at playing through hand traps when they're going first. They're going to make stronger end boards when going first because they sometimes just have random extension through hand traps with Izuna and Case for K9.